Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update video today. We'll go through some of the main newspapers, check out what is happening in the press here today. We'll have a look at El Mundo, El País, El Confidencial, the state broadcaster RTVE. Then at the end of the video, we'll go into the comment section as we normally do and check out what is happening there. So let's get straight into the news. We'll start today with El Mundo, see if there's any interesting pieces of news that catch our attention. And there's an article here in the middle about Morocco and its vaccination campaign, so we'll click on that and we'll see where Morocco is at when it comes to vaccinations. And the headline reads, the keys that have placed Morocco at the top of vaccinations above its European neighbours. In just 3 months, the kingdom surpasses Spain, France and other EU countries in terms of immunised population. They have managed to get their hands on 65 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines and have secured enough to achieve herd immunity. Just 3 months into the campaign, Morocco surpasses some European countries, Spain included, in terms of vaccinated population. So there we go, even Morocco has a more successful vaccination strategy than some European countries, as we saw there, Spain included. We've seen in recent times how various countries around the world, for example the United Kingdom, Israel, the United States, has a very aggressive vaccination strategy. The European Union, no, and that's what we have been critical about here in Europe, especially in Spain, things not going very, very quickly. And of course, we saw yesterday how Gibraltar has managed to get between 70 and 80% of its population vaccinated, and here in Spain, we're close to around 11% of the population that have received 1 dose of the 2 doses. Now, I saw somebody in the comments section have a bit of a go at me, saying that I'm a bit too harsh on Spain and the vaccination policy, and how can we compare a place like Gibraltar with Spain, Gibraltar having only some 34,000 people. But my point is that I don't think there's a village or town here in Spain with a similar population that has managed to get 80% of its inhabitants vaccinated. That's my argument. Gibraltar has, Spain hasn't. And now we see countries like Morocco with a better vaccination strategy, so questions have to be asked. What has gone wrong? Now we'll go back into the news and click on this article here about the failed vaccination campaign. And more bad news, as the headline reads, the government's objective of vaccinating 80% of those over 80 years of age before April fails due to the lack of doses. Murcia, Andalusia, Asturias, Castilla y León, those that have made the most progress in immunising the weakest group against the virus. So another target missed, unfortunately, getting 80% of those over 80 vaccinated against COVID-19. But I don't want to say too much about it because people will accuse me of being too harsh on the government. Now we'll leave El Mundo, go into El País, see what is happening there. Brussels demands from Spain a comprehensive and ambitious labour reform. European Vice President Valdis Dombrovskis calls for the tackling of the duality of the labour market and the extremely high youth unemployment. So the European Union demanding from Spain a comprehensive and ambitious labour reform and trying to get rid of those problems that we have here in the labour market. For example, as they mentioned there, that duality, the double tier system. Some people have fantastic contracts and the rest have very bad contracts. And of course, very high youth unemployment, over 50%, maybe even more in some parts of Spain, and it has been a problem for many, many years. And all of these reforms, I believe, need to be done in order for Spain to get access to that 140 billion euros of aid that the European Union has. These are some of the conditions that the European Union is putting on the table, and labour market reform here in Spain, very, very important. So let's see if Spain can make positive changes to this aspect of the country. Now we'll go back into the news, and there's an article here about the new mask rules and regulations that the government announced yesterday. So we'll click on that one. We can see there's a picture of a couple of people sitting on the beach there, no one around, but of course now they have to wear their masks. And the headline reads, the tourism sector critical of the new mandatory mask rule. They are going to turn our beaches into field hospitals, they say. Tourism company Excel Tour believes that the measure is improvised and does not contribute to giving more security to those who visit Spain. So the tourism sector here in Spain not happy with this new mask rule. The fact that now we have to wear a mask everywhere we go outdoors in Spain, not only indoors but outdoors as well. Even when there is a safe distance between people, you have to wear a mask. And as we saw those two people there sitting on the beach, no one around, but with their masks on, because that of course, is the new rule. You don't have to wear one if you have a health condition. You don't have to wear one outdoors if you are practicing exercise. But if you're sitting on the beach, if you're going to a swimming pool, for example, this summer, if you're walking in the countryside, apparently now you have to wear a mask legally. So another potential blow to the tourist sector, and I'm sure that there are some people that wouldn't come to Spain if they had to wear a mask on the beach, for example, or a mask everywhere they went. Now we'll leave El País, go into El Confidencial, see what is happening there. We'll have a look at the health data, and as we can see, the color of the map is changing. We now have three colors on the map, a light gray, a darker gray, and of course a very dark bluey gray color there. Madrid and Navarra, of course, being those areas with that color. If we click on Valencia, for example, we'll check out the situation. 26 per 100,000 there over the last 14 days, quite low. Andalusia, 129. The Balearic Islands, 66. Of course, we know there's lots of German tourists there enjoying the sun in the Balearics this week. And Madrid, of course, still relatively high at 257. But the worst incidence rate here in Spain now goes to Navarra, and they are at 281. Now we'll see if there's any news in El Confidencial worth looking at. And there's an article here about Ayuso, the premier of the Madrid community, and we can see a picture of her there waving to her legion of fans. And the headline reads, Ayuso wins in the bars, the left will lose if it only offers fear and restrictions. So elections here in the Madrid community scheduled for the 4th of May. As we can see here, the premier of the Madrid community on the campaign trail, out and about in bars and restaurants, as we saw in the picture there, being photographed having a tapa or having something to drink, because that is one of her main strengths, having kept that particular sector open for the last 6 months or so. When the rest of Spain was closed, Madrid was open. People were allowed to go out and about, have a drink, have something to eat, go to a restaurant. That's what people love to do in this part of Spain. It's what people love to do all over the country. And of course, Ayuso will most likely win that election because of her very liberal policy over the last 6 months or so. But still a month or so to go before those elections, so anything could happen over the next month. We'll wait and see. Now we'll leave El Confidencial, go to the state broadcaster, see what's happening there. And there's an article here about AstraZeneca, so we'll click on that one. And the headline reads that the Health Ministry is proposing vaccinating people over 65 who are essential workers with AstraZeneca. And just below that it says Janssen's vaccine to target older people along with Pfizer and Moderna. So again, I'm a little bit confused about this AstraZeneca vaccine. Originally here in Spain it was only for people between 18 and 55. Then they decided to extend that to people up to the age of 65. Now they're talking about giving it to people over the age of 65 if they are essential health workers. So it seems that nobody can make up their mind on who to give this vaccine to. I think Germany yesterday announced that they're going to reduce the age limit for people to receive this vaccine, and here in Spain they're increasing it. So as I said, I'm a little bit confused. The Janssen vaccine is apparently touching down here in Spain next month, but as we just saw from that text, it will most likely be used on the elderly and not on the younger members of society. Now we'll leave the news there and go into the comment section, see what is happening there. And we'll have a look at this one from Edward. The sooner I can travel to Spain, the better. Staycations are fine, but they're expensive, and there isn't enough capacity at hotels, campsites, etc. I'm hoping that once first dose vaccines are administered to those in the UK, we will be allowed to travel again. I don't expect to go anywhere before August at the earliest though. Edward, thanks for the comment. We mentioned in yesterday's video that the UK Tourism Minister recommended staycations for people in the UK this year, recommended against going to overseas destinations, places like Spain, and of course that was a huge hit for the Spanish economy, or it will be a huge hit for the Spanish economy if British people are not allowed to travel to Spain this year, or they are recommended against doing so. You mentioned in your comment that you will come to Spain if you get the opportunity, but perhaps not until August, you think, and staycations, as you mentioned, can be a little bit more expensive. We all know that Spain traditionally has been a cheap holiday destination. In fact, it's cheaper to come to Spain from the UK than it is to travel from places in Spain to other places in Spain. For example, you can get a cheaper holiday from London to Mallorca than you can from Madrid to Mallorca, and that is obviously an incentive for a lot of people. But we'll see what happens when it comes to vaccinations and if the health situation here in Spain can be brought under control in the near future. Let's hope so. One here from Airspan 2020. So according to El País, a new law in Spain makes masks mandatory even when you are near nobody. Masks hiking out in the countryside or basking in the sun on the beach even when you're far away from anyone. Come on, Spain, that's just putting norms for the sake of them. Where's the common sense? That'll certainly dampen the longing for holidays in Spain for a lot of people. And as we can see, this comment got 27 thumbs up and 20 comments. So the new mask mandate here in Spain, not very popular if you read comments like this one here from Airspan. And let's be honest, I imagine that it's not going to be very popular for a lot of people. I imagine that some people will take their holiday decisions based on that fact, whether or not they have to wear a mask out in the open. And a few people that I spoke to yesterday here in Spain also couldn't really see the common sense, especially when you are out in the open, out hiking, at the beach when there's nobody around. But it has been fairly common over the last year or so for the government to put in these blanket bans over everything. For example, when it comes to wearing a mask, doesn't matter what the conditions are, it doesn't matter how many people are around you, you have to wear a mask. So I imagine that they're thinking that every beach here in Spain is crowded in the summer and that every hiking trail is crowded, and that's the reason, or that's the only reason I can imagine that they bring in these mandatory mask rules. Will it put a lot of people off holidaying in Spain this year? I don't know. I'll open it up again to the community, have a little bit of a snap poll and see what the feedback is there, but I think for some it will be a factor. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the situation out as you normally do. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.